Today's Namaste Yoga is yoga with 2 blocks. Hello and welcome to episode 284 of Namaste Yoga. Thank you so much for joining me. I'm Dr. Melissa West and we are moving on from the Inner Critic series. I appreciate all of you who joined us for that. Today we're going to do a fun yoga masterclass. The masterclass is kind of like I did a few degrees in music actually, but my undergrad degree in music, we used to have a class once a week where my main instrument was flute, so you'd get together with all the other flute players and you would have flute master class, and so you'd learn skills with that instrument. You know, somebody would play their piece and you'd go really into detail on one thing related to that instrument. So today we're going to do a yoga block master class. So a little different style of class, and we did it about a year ago with the yoga strap. You are going to need a strap and 2 blocks today. I recommend the cork blocks because they're heavier, they're more stable, they're not going to fall over when you do your standing postures. And I'm really grateful to Dusky Leaf for the cork blocks that they provide me. And I've linked to them in the show notes as well, so you can get some from them as well. I also want to thank Squeeze Yoga Clothing for my clothes. I'm wearing a long sleeve bamboo black top with alm on it and long red leggings. It's cold today, so I've also got a fleece on over top. But as I was saying, about a year ago, we did a class where we just a yoga strap masterclass, and I'll link to that in the show notes as well. And we had about 14,000 views in that class just on my YouTube channel, but probably across all the channels that distribute my classes, many more than that. So it was something that was of interest to people. So I thought I would do a block class where we just take a look at all the different ways that you can use the block. This is not an exhaustive list, but I thought it was an interesting one, and we can explore how tools can be useful in our body. So I'm going to get you set up and started. You're going to start with the blocks for a supported fish pose. So you'll have 1 block higher and 1 block lengthwise. And I will get you here, and then there's lots of pine cones under my mat today. Okay, so you lie down so that the base of your lower block is at the bottom of your rib cage, and then the top block supports your head, and then you open up your arms beside you, and this is a nice supported back bend. And there's a lot of research showing that when you give your body the support that it needs in poses, as opposed to doing stretches actively, then what happens is your nervous system can relax and it feels supported, and then what happens is your body becomes more flexible a lot more quickly. And this is the way that I'm teaching a lot more on my membership site, the kind of content that I'm giving there a lot more with the props that we're using there in our postures and pranayama section now. So our members will be familiar with these concepts a little bit more. So you're going to rest here, and I'll sit up and read you our iTunes review for today. Okay, so this testimonial comes from the United States of America. The username is CKA141. And this person says, Melissa West is the best. I love Melissa's approach to yoga, real yoga for real people. Each class is better than the last. I use her membership site as well as her podcasts from iTunes. So easy to access anytime, anywhere. I recommend her class to anyone who wants to broaden their understanding of yoga and deepen their practice. So thank you to all of you who leave your comments, your testimonials, your recommendations on iTunes. If you watch Namaste Yoga through iTunes on your iPhones, your iPads, or your iTVs, we really appreciate you taking the time to leave your 5-star reviews, 5-star ratings and reviews there. It really helps us a lot. And also anywhere that you leave them on Facebook or YouTube or on our membership site or on our website, we really appreciate that. So thank you, CK, too, for taking the time to leave that review on iTunes. So as you're resting back in supported fish pose with the blocks underneath your heart center and underneath your head, this pose is particularly good for opening up your heart center, for relieving depression and grief. It's great if you have any respiratory problems like asthma or any pulmonary issues, any kind of I'm not thinking of the right word right now. Emphysema, those kind of things. Great for those kind of things. But as you're resting back over supported fish pose, even if none of those things are an issue for you, just notice if you're resistant to using the blocks as support. You know, if you feel an urgency to do the pose for yourself rather than be in a pose, if that's an edge for you. And if that is, then just be curious if receiving support in your life is also a thing. Is there a life connection there for you? Is there some resistance to receiving support in your life as well? So often what happens on the mat, and if we're resistant to receiving support from props on our yoga mat, then there can be a life connection that there may be resistance to receiving support from whatever form they come in off our mat as well. So props are a great tool, and sometimes people are resistant to using them. So just look at the life connection there. Okay, and then from here, you're going to bend your knees and roll to your side and come off your blocks. You're going to put one block off to the side, get your strap, and you're going to need one block for the next one. So you're going to take your block and stay lying down on your back with your knees bent and your feet flat on the floor. Take your block, you're going to put it this way underneath your sacrum. So that's the large triangular bony shaped structure underneath your pelvis. So press into your feet, lift your pelvis off the ground. You're going to put it on the lowest setting, right underneath your sacrum, so you feel that support underneath your pelvis. And then take your strap. So the block can be useful for waking up those dull areas, for heightening awareness in a pose. And here you can feel how the block at the back of your sacrum is creating that awareness at the back of your sacrum, on the SI joints on either side of your sacrum. And then what you're going to do is you're going to place the strap, and I apologize, I've got my socks on, it's rather cool here today. You're going to place the strap around the ball of your foot, take your right leg straight in the air, and you may need to adjust your block a little bit so it's not pressing into your low back, but that it stays right on your sacrum. And then you're going to lengthen your left leg. As long as you don't have any low back herniation, disc issues in your low back, you can lengthen your left leg out long. And then you get the added bonus of a really nice opening through your psoas. And we have a whole class on this with our Intelligent Core class on our membership site if you want to go into that more, because you'll feel a really nice opening here, which is great for relieving anxiety. And if you feel like you're always on the run, just getting into your hamstrings like this can help to soften and bring some ease to that sense of always being on the run. And then bend your right leg. Place your right leg on the ground. You're going to lengthen. Well, let's keep the right leg bent. Put the strap around the ball of your left foot. Take your left foot straight into the air. And then if there are no low back issues, herniation, disc issues in the low back, then you can lengthen your left leg out long. So again, the block is great to waken up those dull areas in the body and bring you into your body. So we tend to, as a culture now, really be in our heads. We tend to focus and have a lot of thoughts worrying about the future. And so even a simple tool like the block that brings awareness into our body drops us out of our mind and into our body. And that can really help to ease that anxiety and take that mental suffering that we have, always worrying about the future, out of our heads and bring us back into our bodies. And then you can release your left leg down. You can put your strap off to your side. And then you're going to press into your feet. And you're going to need one block again. Lower yourself down. And this time you're going to take your block and place it between your knees. And this is going to draw your knees together so that you're drawing your inner thighs together. And you're going to press on the block. And as soon as you do this, you'll start to feel that core support coming towards you. So again, this block is a way of drawing that support in towards your center. So it's a way of thinking about how support works in your life. So here you're drawing in your inner thighs, which helps you to lift up your pelvic floor. In yoga, we call this Mula Bandh. And then you're going to press into your feet until your pelvis lifts off the ground. And here the block helps you to keep your inner thighs engaged, keep drawing up through your pelvic floor, and you'll feel that core support continue through your navel center. Mula Bandh, Uddiyana Bandh. And then slowly lower down. So from a very active pose, a doing pose, we're going to explore the being and letting go into support in the same pose. So you're going to take your block, press into your feet. You're going to place the block underneath you. So you can experiment with levels. It's at the beginning of the class. I would encourage you to use a lower level and be curious about it if you're wanting to push into a higher level on the block at the beginning. And just allow yourself to let go into the support of the block. And notice if there's any resistance to pushing and doing more here. And just be curious about that. Really explore. Notice how it wakens up those dull areas. Feel that really softness, that real... For me, in this pose, there's a lot of energy that pools around the whole pelvis. It's very calming and relaxing. So just notice what happens for you in this pose and allow yourself to let go into it. So any pose where your head is below your heart like this helps to very much calm you, ease anxiety, reduce blood pressure, lower your heart rate. So a lot of benefits to these being poses where you use supported props like the block. And then press into your feet, lift up off the block and slowly lower down, roll to your side. And you're going to come up. We're going to do pigeon pose, and I'm going to show you a few ways you can use the block. Depending here, you're going to need 1 or 2 blocks, depending on how you choose to use the props, depending on the flexibility of your hips, actually. So let's come forward onto all fours. I'm going to show you the left side first so that you can really see how to use the block as a prop, especially if you have tight hips. So you're going to slide your left knee forward and your right leg back. So if your hips are quite tight, then one of the ways that you can use blocks is to lift the floor to use. So one of the things that my teacher, Tama Sobel at Esther Myers Yoga, always used to say to me was, there's nothing wrong with you, there's something wrong with the floor. The floor is not close to you, enough to you. So what you do is you fill the space until the floor comes to you. And that can be a great way to use the prop. So as I said at the beginning of the class, what current research is saying is that it's no good for you to hang out in space and wait for your muscle to let go, because it just won't. Your nervous system will go into panic mode and it will stay stuck there. And if you actually fill the space, what happens is, and use props like this in a style of yoga that's usually known more as restorative yoga, but I'm probably going to start calling it smarter yoga, is that your nervous system will relax. It will give the message to your brain that your body's safe, and then it will allow your muscle to let go. And so you're going to find gains in flexibility much more quickly when you use props than when you don't use props, rather than hanging out in midair waiting for flexibility to happen, because your nervous system will just put on the panic brakes to your brain and nothing is going to happen. So that's what's the use of props. That's why it's useful to use props, especially if you're hanging out in midair. Always bring the ground up to you. If you have more flexible hips, so if your hip does reach the ground, then one thing you can do is use the blocks to fold forward in this pose and put them underneath your arms. Okay, so let's do that on the other side. You're going to slide your right knee forward, take your left leg back. So again, if the floor is far away from your buttocks, then you're going to fill the space with the block and fold forward there. Or if you have more flexible hips, you can use the blocks underneath your arms and fold forward. So do what works best for you and your body today. Now from here, you're going to make your way up to seated, and I'm going to show you a way that you can use your block in seated meditation, because you're going to sit to receive the teachings with the mudra. So you take your block and you sit, you kneel with the block between your legs, and this can be a very comfortable way to sit. So it's just underneath my legs like that. You just sit with your sit bones. It supports you on your sit bones. So that's a great way to sit with the block. And we're going to do a mudra for allowing today. Because this class is all about allowing things to come to you, or allowing yourself to receive support, or allowing your body to let go into the blocks. So this mudra rejuvenates your heart and pericardium, releases accumulated stress and emotions, it regulates blood pressure and your heart rate, it reduces anxiety and opens up your heart center, and I've chosen it today to open you to allow things to come to you. Okay, so the way the mudra works is on both hands. You're going to roll your index finger down to the pad of your hand, to the base of the index finger, so the pad, and then you're going to bring the first knuckle into your base of your thumb, and then you're going to bring the tip of your thumb to your 2 middle fingers and extend your other 2 fingers. Okay? And then rest that on your lap. You're going to bring your shoulders back over your hips, your ears back over your shoulders, and smile inwardly to your heart center. And you're going to sit like this while I speak the teachings for you today. So as I said, in this class, you are focusing on allowing things to come to you with the help of your yoga blocks. And you can reflect too on the life connection there too, allowing things to come to you in your life. Props allow you to receive support in your yoga practice regardless of your age, your physical ability, or even how long you have been studying yoga. Oftentimes people are resistant to using props such as blocks in their yoga practice. It could be that they might not feel they're getting the full benefit of the practice if they're using a prop, but as I've explained, there's a lot of research now that supports that using the props are even more beneficial than not using the props. So I think if you're properly educated now, it would be foolish not to use props, in my opinion. So if this is the case for you, explore the life connection for yourself. Are you unwilling to receive support in other areas of your life as well? Is it just as challenging for you to receive support off the yoga mat? And also maybe look into the research too that shows that, because it's not just woo-woo, it's not just this kind of new age connection. There's also a lot of research that supports this now as well. I found props such as yoga blocks to be an incredible tool to explore my creative expression as a yoga teacher, but also as a student of yoga as well. And today you will explore the yoga block as a way to allow things to come to you, as well as to explore the deeper level of awareness in your yoga postures. So they're a great tool to allow you to go deeper as well, as you've already experienced with waking up dull areas of your body. Blocks bring the floor up to you. Instead of reaching to allow things to come to you with your yoga blocks, they bring the floor up to you. So can you see if there's a life connection here for you? Are you always reaching, pushing, trying to grab out to make things happen? And where can you allow things to come to you instead of efforting so much? Blocks heighten and bring poses to you. When you reduce the reach on your yoga mat, you can cut down on upper back, neck, and shoulder strain. Those might be things you experience in your day-to-day life. So what would happen in your life if you cut down on the reach, on the straining, and allowed things to come to you? Blocks are amazing at providing support in a couple of different ways. When your body needs a little bit of wake up, when it's feeling lethargic, or also there can be parts of your body that feel totally numb as well. We can just be so disconnected from our bodies because we're so much in our head because of all our personal devices, like our handheld devices, our iPhones and things like that. So they can give that wake up. The blocks can help to wake up dull areas of your body. And as you know from the Nourishing Your Energy series, it can be sometimes challenging to access your lower belly. That area of your body, you can be quite disconnected from it. And so the blocks can help you to access your belly, your core, to waken it up by helping you to engage your inner thigh muscles and your pelvic floor and help you to come into that part of your body. And then when your body needs help letting go, because we tend to be so jacked up in our culture, there's so much in our culture that just gets our nervous system buzzing. And we do need a lot of help letting go. The blocks are incredibly helpful for that. Yoga blocks will also provide unique leverage in forward folds. And they help to release and support parts of your body, allowing you to take a more restful and renewing variation as well. So reflecting on all of this, ask yourself what it is that you'd like to receive from this class and begin to form your intention. What it is that you would like to create, sustain, release, or rebirth in your life, and how this yoga class can help you do that. And then we will use the blocks to bring the floor up to us. And I'm going to show you a couple of different ways to do that in downward facing dog. Okay, so for Adho Mukh Svanasana, I have frozen shoulder on my left side, so my Adho Mukh Svanasana looks kind of more like a table position. But you've all seen downward facing dog a million times, so you know what it's supposed to look like. So you can imagine it. But what I'm going to show you is a couple of variations. One is to put the block underneath your feet, because a lot of people have tight hamstrings, or short hamstrings. And so what you can do is raise the floor. Actually, if you're in your house, even better would be to put the blocks right up against your wall. And then they're going to stay put. A lot better. So that if I was at home, that's what I would do. And then you can play around with having your feet in front of the blocks or placing your feet right up on the blocks, and having it right against the wall is going to make a big difference. But then raising the floor a bit could make a big difference to you. So try that. And I think you're going to find, especially if you don't have frozen shoulder, this is going to make a big difference to you. Okay, the other variation is for people with hyperly mobile shoulders. What happens in downward facing dog is that they sink into their shoulders and then there's no stability in their shoulders. So for this one, I would turn around on your wall and put the blocks right against your wall here so you can push into them. And place the blocks underneath your hands. And what this does is it creates a lot of stability in your shoulder girdle. And come into this. I want everybody to do this so you can feel the stability in your shoulder girdle in this one. And just feel how strong your upper back and everything feels in this one. And then what you're going to do is curl your tailbone under. We're all going to come from Adho Mukh Svanasana to Urdhva Mukh Svanasana to upward facing dog. And feel what it feels like to have the blocks underneath your hands. It's sort of should feel like an easier transition between the two. Okay. So remember, this is a master class, so we're just experimenting and playing around with different variations. The other thing I wanted to show you was and this one won't be a big learning curve for you, but would be lunge pose with the blocks. So walk your left leg through with your blocks on either side of your feet. This is nice for balance and stability. You can have your blocks higher or lower so you can play around with the height. And then the other variation I wanted to show you here is lizard. So if you are working towards bringing your arms to the ground on the inside of your leg, you can put the blocks on the ground. If you can't get all the way down, you can, again, this is an example of lifting the floor to you. And then we'll go ahead and do that on the other side. So walk your foot back and walk your right leg through. So you're opening up the front of your right hip. And this is just such a great counter pose to sitting all day long. We spend way too much time in a sitting position, so your hips are constantly in a flexed position. Yeah. And then we get, for those of you who listen to Katie Bowman, and if you don't, you should, and read her books, and she would say we get casted in those positions. So it's almost like your body is in a casted seated position all the time. So this position brings you out of that flexed seated position. Think about it. You sit all day long at your job, at a desk, you sit when you're in your car, you sit when you're in public transportation. Even things like bicycles keep you in that seated position. So yeah, when you sit and you look at your cell phones and your tablets, computers, just constant. Sit and look at the TV. So you need to come out of those seated positions. This is a great counter pose to sitting. Opens up the fronts of your hips. You sit on the toilet. You didn't used to sit on the toilet. So yeah, we're coming out of that position. So this is another example of bringing the floor to you, not reaching, allowing things to come to you. And then find your way out of that pose. You're going to take your blocks back to the either side of your right foot. And I'm going to recommend that you actually bring your foot way back because they're going to be lengthening out the back of your right leg. Turn your left toes under and straighten out through both legs for standing forward folding triangle. This is again another example of bringing the floor up to you, especially if your posterior chain, the whole back of your body is tight. And then turn your left toes out, drop your left hip bone, drop your right sit bone, open your left hip bone, and you're going to lift your left arm straight up. So you're going to imagine my left arm is going straight up. You can use your right block to, again, bring the floor up to you. You could bring your right block underneath your right hand too. And if you're having trouble with your arm like me, you can just tug it behind your back. And then we're going to do revolve triangle. Really nice to massage your organs and all your, great for your digestion. Drop your left hand down to your block and reach your right arm up. And then turn back around to the ground, bend your knees, and we'll repeat that sequence on the other side. So bring your left leg forward, the blocks on either side. So it's a great way to lift the floor up to you, especially if your posterior chain is really short and tight, which it does tend to be, just again from sitting so much. So curl your toes under, lengthen out through both legs. Then turn your right toes out, drop your left sit bone, open up your right arm. Drop your right arm down, turn towards your torso, and bring your left arm up for a reverse triangle. And then you're going to step your back foot forward and make your way up to standing. Okay, from here we're going to do another standing posture with your block between your legs, and actually you're going to need both blocks, but you're going to take the block and put it between your legs. This is a great one so that you can use your block as an alignment tool so that your ankles, knees, and hips all line up, all point forward. Great for your knees. Also another great one to engage your inner thighs. Draw Uddiyana Bandha, Mula Bandh, waking up those dull areas, those areas that tend to get not engaged. And then the other thing for this pose, you're going to take your block between your arms. You're going to take your arms straight overhead so that your arms are right by your ears. So it's going to look like this for you. And then what will happen is that we'll engage the muscles along your back. And those muscles tend to be really weak, again, from all that rounding over computers, screens of any kind. And so it'll help to strengthen up those muscles. Great, another great counter pose for life. So this will come all the way up, arms all the way beside your ears. And you're going to inhale here. Exhale, you're going to sit down into chair pose. So for you, your arms will be all the way up. Squeezing your block with your hands, squeezing your block with your inner thighs. And then inhale and make your way up to standing. And you're going to put one block down. And then you're going to take your feet wide on the mat. And you're going to place the block on the ground. And depending on your flexibility and your forward folds will be the height of your block. And you're going to inhale here. Exhale, roll your hips forward. And then you're going to rest your head on the block here. So this is give yourself a nice rest here. Very calming, very relaxing, great for anxiety. Get another one of those poses where your head is below your heart. Reduces blood pressure. Calms your heart rate. And then you're going to make your way up to standing. And we're going to do Warrior 3. I'm going to show you a variation of Warrior 3 where you can use the blocks to, again, lift the floor to you, but also to help with balance. Oh my goodness, there's so many deer. She's got 2 babies now. Are you coming to practice yoga? I think we're right on their path. That's the problem. This is certainly more lovely than the eagles hunting last week. So sweet. Okay, so Warrior 3, this is a variation that helps with balance. So you can put the blocks down on the ground too at the highest height. And what you're going to do is hip hinge forward through your left leg and put your hands on the blocks. Bring your back leg and your torso parallel to the ground. And then inhale, come up to standing, and we'll do this on the other side. Big breath in. Breathe out, hip hinge forward. And use the blocks for balance here. This is a great pose to build strength in your back and also in your core muscles. Also helps you be more decisive in your life. Help you find balance. And then inhale, come up to standing. And from here, I'm going to show you a variation on shoulder stand with your blocks, supported shoulder stand with your block. This is one of my favorites, very calming, very relaxing. So you lie down on your back with your knees bent and your feet flat on the floor. You can press into your feet. I would use your block on the lowest setting. Press into your feet. Place the block underneath your sacrum. And then lift your feet in the air. And then you just hang out here. And it takes very little effort to have your feet in the air. It's very calming. It allows blood to flow back to your heart center. This is really good if you have swollen ankles, varicose veins, you have poor blood flow to your legs. Also very calming for anything, any anxiety, things like that as well. Okay, and then bend your knees. Place your feet flat on the floor. Press into your feet. Lift the block out. Oops. That was your Kobo, honey. And roll to your side. And then come up to kneeling. And I'm going to show you a couple of variations of using the blocks with camel pose. When I did my teacher training, all the poses were numbered with the letters of the alphabet, and camel was O camel. So it was like, O camel. So I always think of that still with camel, because camel for me is like, oh, camel. So here's a couple of variations. This variation is a gentler variation of camel, where you place your feet at 90-degree angles. It's just a little easier. So, and then you can lift the floor too with the block. So again, extra easy. So you're going to inhale, take your left arm up and over to the block and reach your right arm up and over. And then that gets rid of the O part for camel. And then you can do this on the other side. We'll get both our blocks going here on either side of by our ankles. So lifting the ground so you don't have as far back to bend. Okay, then you can come forward or stay with these versions. Now you can also use the blocks in more full expressions of camel. Keeping in mind we haven't done a whole lot to prepare. This is a master class more where we're showing you variations, showing you tools and techniques of how to use the blocks. So tuck your tailbone under, open up through the front so your hips lift up and over. You might be able to reach the blocks here. There was actually one more thing I wanted to show you here as well, to use the block as an alignment tool here. Because one thing that happens in camel is the knees start to swing out. So to use, just like you do in bridge pose, and we're going to in some other poses moving forward here to keep your alignment, it's good to use it in wheel pose this way too, to use a block, because as soon as you start doing back bends, that whole alignment from ankles to knees to hips starts whoosh, going. So use your blocks to hang on. So here it would be useful actually to have 3 blocks, and then to do that whole lift up and over, and you can feel the difference of keeping that drawing up and in. Okay, and then for our counter pose for this one, we're actually going to use our blocks as well in child's pose. I'm not entirely sure how well this is going to work in my body because of frozen shoulder. I may be able to demonstrate this just on one side. You're going to take your tricep and place it under the block, but do it on both. Yeah, you're going to do it on both sides. Yeah, that's not going to work for me in that arm, but so you know you'll be able to do that in your body. So you've got the block right underneath your tricep in both arms in child's pose. That gets a really nice opening through your tricep and also through your armpit. This would be a nice counter pose in cow's face pose as well. Okay. All right. This one was really fun to me. It might not be to you. Was the use of blocks to build strength, to work on strength and alignment in chaturanga. So you take the blocks and you put your hands on either side of them. And then you practice coming down into push-up. You touch your shoulders down and push up. So your elbows come straight back, touch down, and then push up. I'm like way out of practice on these because of having this frozen shoulder. So you lower down and you press up. And it really, there's something with having these blocks here that really force you to work on your alignment well. Tim's come over here. Maybe you try it with the blocks. Get out from behind the camera and see how well you do. It's you guys tell me if it makes it hard. Maybe I'll try one without the blocks and see with. Yeah, it's different. It's different with the blocks. It forces you to align better. It does. There's something that your body does differently with the blocks. You tell me if you notice that in the comments. So that's a great tool. When I was doing the research on this, it said that it just worked the alignment much better. So I thought that was a really cool tool. The other one that I wanted to show you again is this engaging of the inner thighs, drawing up the pelvic floor that we've used in a few places like chair pose. We used it in bridge pose. We're going to use it in Savasana, boat pose. So holding on to and we used it in camel as well, holding on to the block in your inner thighs. And then that helps you to draw in your inner thighs, so you draw up through your pelvic floor. Mula Bandh, which helps to engage Uddiyana Bandh. Inhale, exhale, and lean back. Keep drawing your knees into your block. Okay, and then from here, I'm going to show you a trick with the block and the wall to help you with your posture. So I'm just going to crawl over here to this tree, which looks like the straightest tree in the forest of Government House with all the deer. The rest of the trees are very crooked because it's very windy. So what you're going to do is you're going to put your block against the wall. So that would be better for me too. Jen's asking me to turn the other way. This side of the tree looks even more straight to me. So you're going to put your block against the side of the wall. This will be easier for you because you will not have lumps at the bottom of the tree. And then you're going to sit back against the wall. It's going to go kind of between your shoulder blades. You will be better with all the smooth walls and smooth floors in your house. And then you're going to sit back. You're going to lean back into that, and you're going to feel it's going to open your chest, strengthen the muscles of your back, draw your ears back over your shoulders. So feel all this opening here, strengthening of your back. And breathe. Notice how you can get in more air. So more air is going to mean more energy. You're going to get rid of that stale air at the bottom of your lungs. Better air exchange. So this is something you could do. This would be a great, let me make a tip, this would be a great computer break for you. Take your block, go sit against a wall. You know, should be taking computer breaks probably every 20 minutes. So go take a break. Go take a break and sit with your block against the wall for 3 minutes. Then go back and do another 20 minutes on your computer. So the wall can be such a great tool for alignment. We have one whole class on our membership site called Off the Wall that is done against the wall, and then we have a few classes that have a lot of wall stuff. Great alignment tools, like having a private teacher right in your home. And then we're going to do Malasana, squatting pose. So when you squat, for most people, their heels come off the ground. But when you lift the floor to you, so actually just sit back onto your block, what you'll find is you can also lower your heels to the ground. So it allows you to practice squatting pose in your body, kind of reconfigure it, feel your heels on the ground and it's just a variation that allows you to start to move towards Malasana squat pose. And this is really important. This is a pose that we used to spend a lot of time in our bodies because it's how we used to eliminate our bowels, or garden and gather. And we don't spend any time in this pose anymore. And so if you experience constipation, then it's because you're not spending enough time in this position in your body. So you might want to, the next time you take your computer break after 20 minutes, the first time you can sit against the wall, the second time you can spend some time in this pose. And it will help to ease constipation. And also look at how much all your joints are flexed here too. So help to improve mobility in your joints, all your joints as well. Ankles, knees, hips. So as you age, this is going to be something that is important to you so that you can get up and down out of chairs, up and down off the toilet, in and out of your car. These are all going to be important things to you as you age. And then the final thing that I wanted to show you with the block is how you can use your block as a tool to leverage you in forward fold. So if you sit with your sit bones right at the edge of your block, then it can allow your hips to hinge forward in a forward fold like Paschimottanasana. And you could even use your other block to fill the space here so that your nervous system feels nice and safe and it can let go even more. So you can have even greater gains in your flexibility. So there you're raising the floor to you again. And then you can hip hinge and come back up to seated. And you can make your way down to lie on your back for Savasana. So tuck your shoulder blades underneath you. Rest down on your back and just check in now and notice how your body feels. If it feels more grounded, connected to the ground, rested, less anxious, if you feel more connected to your body, if your thoughts are less racing. And you're going to stay here, allow yourself to integrate this class. I'm going to sit up and read you a poem, well actually a verse from the Radiant Sutras to me that relates to allowing. So as I said, I chose verse 35 from the Radiant Sutras because to me it spoke to allowing all of the universe to come to you. So if it speaks to you, that's great. Allow it to sink in and really allow it to come to you and just sink into all of the cells of your whole being. And if it doesn't speak to you, that's totally fine too. You can just let it all go. Shining One. Breathing out, let go, and fall into knowing all of creation as existing within space, and you are absorbed in that vibrant, empty fullness. In this moment, your body is intimate with space, exchanging essence for essence. Balancing in the midst of vast emptiness, no utter freedom. So allow yourself to receive all of that. Notice what stands out about your experience of today's class of yoga with 2 blocks. And when you feel ready, gradually allow your breath to deepen. Begin to wiggle and stretch out. Bend your knees. Roll to your sides. And slowly make your way up to seated. So thank you so much for joining us for episode 284 of Namaste Yoga. Tim, myself, the deer, and everybody else from all around the world who is practicing yoga with us today. If you liked today's show, then you can subscribe to our channel for lots of other shows like this, and you can like our show and definitely leave a comment. I'd love to know any differences you felt with using the blocks as support, any poses. I'd love to know if there was anything new for you today. Also, let me know of any variations that you use the blocks for that I didn't include in today's show too. So share with me your tips and tricks for using the blocks. You can leave all that in the comments below. Also, if you'd like to leave a donation, there's a link there for that. I know a lot of teachers will be following this class, and one of the great things about being a teacher is that I know we all follow the ethical guidelines of Asteya, non-stealing. And so if you feel so guided and you are planning on using these teachings and taking them into your own class, then I know it costs a lot of money to go to workshops like this where you would receive that kind of information. So you can make a donation here because you received this class freely, but I know if you're taking it into your class that you receive this for a lot less than it would cost to go to a workshop. So we would really appreciate any donation that you would like to make for the value received from this class. I want to thank people who have donated to us in June. I want to thank Crystal Baschuk, Viola Vazio, Hannah Gilly, Fiona Coates, Sean Canavan, Karen McGuire, and Ivy Toulin for donating to us in this June. We super appreciate it. These classes are freely given, but as I always say, they are not free to produce by any stretch. So all of your support is greatly appreciated. And if you would like to receive ongoing support, like I've been talking about our nervous system and your brain and the way that it works, we do a lot more of that in the membership site. So in our new postures and pranayama class, the way I talked about props and using props to support your body so that your nervous system can let go and become more flexible in less time. That kind of research, that kind of innovation and cutting edge research is what I share and hold back and give to my members. And if you'd like to become a member, you can sign up here in our membership site. So that's what we give to our member in our postures and pranayama section. It's a whole library. There are tons of classes there, and we use lots of props in that section to go a lot further than we did in this class in that section. So huge gains in flexibility, far greater than traditional yoga and traditional stretching. So in those classes, we'll help you gain huge gains in flexibility in your hamstrings, hips, shoulders, upper back, neck, lower back, and become more flexible with some of the most current props in the field, some props that you may not have even seen yet. So we'd love to have you as a member. I'm sending you much love from beautiful British Columbia. May you be as rooted as the trees in our forest. May you be as strong as our mountains. And may your joy be as deep as our ocean. Om Shanti. Namaste.
Melissa would love to hear your questions and thoughts. Please leave your comments below the video. Thank you for your reviews on iTunes and YouTube. Your reviews help us to share yoga and a yoga lifestyle with others around the world. If you have a question for Melissa, you can leave a voice message at melissawest.com, and Melissa may answer it in an upcoming blog.